Yesterday we had the pleasure to announce the extension for Coach Richards. And since it's his extension, I'm not going to talk very long. I'm going to let him have his press conference and talk about the opportunity here and the contract and the length of it and all that. But as I said yesterday in the announcement, that this was something that we felt that was well deserved, earned. I give a lot of credit to our coaching staff and obviously the head coach for the way our team prepares for every game, the way our team plays, the identity that we've established around the league, the discipline, the heart and passion and desire that our guys show on the ice. It comes from the preparation that our coaches put our team through every day, the way we practice, the way we prepare for games, so like I said, the contract extension is well earned, and somebody mentioned yesterday when they were asking me questions about talked about Todd as a young coach. I think he's young and getting a lot of experience this year with not only our team but with the Olympic team as well. I think that was something that I see as a great learning experience for whether it's a young coach or a little bit older coach, having coached some of the best players in the world with Team USA and having coached against all the best players in the world in the Olympics. And all those things together, I'm going to turn it to you and let you talk about your contract extension.
Well, for me, I'd just rather open it up to questions. I'm sure everyone's got lots of questions. But just before we do get to that, just from my standpoint, just a thank you to Jarmo, to John Davidson, Mike Priest, Bill Zito, everyone in management, the McConnell family and the owners for trusting me and the confidence in me, and not just me, but the staff in being here and hopefully leading this team for the next 3 years.
Todd, when did you get the sense that maybe this was going to be a long-term relationship? Because when you get a new GM midstream, a new director of hockey operations midstream, you don't have a relationship previously with any of them. When did you get the sense that you started to get some traction here and that this would be a long-term relationship? Was it fairly recently, or did you get it pretty early on?
I will say this about Jarmo and John, JD coming in is they really made myself feel comfortable. They were there to help and support. It was never, I knew that I was probably under a microscope a little bit as far as watching and seeing the job that we did as a staff, the way that our team played, but I never had the feeling that they weren't there to support. So that was really from day one. And you know, I think I was out in LA when Jarmo was announced into the position, and he was still back in Finland, and he reached out to me out in LA, and we talked for about 10 minutes on the phone. And again, he made you feel comfortable. And it is not an easy situation, but they made it easy. And you know, as far as the long term, it probably felt that way the first time when as soon as the season ended, when Jarmo came in and just kind of made the announcement to really myself and the rest of the staff that they were looking for an extension for everyone.
Coach, you have a young team get to work with for a few more years, so are you excited to get to continue to develop these young players over the course of the next couple of years?
Really excited about that. You know, there's some things to be said about, I think people look at a young team and there's negatives that go with a young team. And I look at it as positives with a young team. Mature and grow, and they're sponges. They want to soak it up. They want to get better. They want to improve. And it's not to say that older players don't want to get better or improve, but a lot of times their games are really established. And the enthusiasm that young guys have, the excitement, the energy that they play with. So there's a lot of things to be excited, especially when you see our our young players and how they've taken steps this year in their careers. And we have a number of those guys. You know, David Savard this year, Ryan Johansson, Ryan Murray, Boone Jenner. I mean, we can go down the list. And there are some guys that I think were hampered a little bit by injuries, and this summer they'll use the summer to get healthy. They'll come back, be stronger and ready to go next year.
Todd, we've had a couple of press conferences like this when you were named interim coach and then head coach, and now this. How's this different? How is this security different for you, knowing what you've been through and where you've taken this team already, and what might be in the future?
Is there a lot different? I'm not sure if there's a lot different. You know, knowing that 3 years is gives you that a little bit more security. But again, in this position, you know, being a coach in the NHL and really a coach in any sport, you know, there's a financial security, but it doesn't necessarily give you the security of your job, because anything can change and it can happen quick. And I know that because I've been through it one other time. But again, it's being part of the organization and you know, Jarmo and John, and making the decision and just showing the confidence in myself, but not just myself. It's the whole staff. It's the coaches. It's the trainers. It's the medical staff. It's everyone. It's not, believe me, it's not just me. I got great support, great help from a lot of different people this year.
Todd, Jarmo listed just some of the things that you've been through recently. During your arc as the Blue Jackets head coach, was some of these experiences that he talked about, some of the different experiences you've been through, a work stoppage shortened season, a playoff run, just how much have you grown since day one as a Blue Jackets head coach?
For me, you're growing every day. I think we have our habits and our routines, but I think the one thing I like to try to pride myself on is I like to ask questions, because I always believe that there's a better way out there, and you're always trying to find that way to get your team to play, to practice, to prepare. You know, the strike shortened season, it tested you. The Olympic year this year tested you in a lot of different ways, and I think you use every experience to learn and grow.
Jarmo, this organization, maybe for the first time, has really seen all of its young players take off, get better. Johansson, Jenner, Murray, all these guys, you know. What's Todd's role in this? What's the situation, the atmosphere that allows those young players to climb? Because I'm guessing that's a big part of this for you.
Well, I think that as management and coaches, I've talked about this before, we have to put those players into the right situations so they can succeed. So if you're trying to push a young player too early to take on a role that he's not ready for, it's our responsibility. We can't put him into those situations, and I think these guys were mature enough this year. Ryan Johansson took his time, had his ups and downs before he got there, whereas Boone Jenner showed great maturity right off the bat with Ryan Murray. They came into training camp and they earned their spot on the team. It wasn't something that was given to them because they were second overall or second round draft picks and high hopes for the organization. They came in, they earned their spot on the team, and they earned their ice time, they earned their role all the way to the end, and that's why they both grew all year. So I think it's credit to the coaching staff for recognizing how mature those guys are, but also credit to the players for really doing it the old-fashioned way.
Todd, this question's for you. Where did you see the most growth in your team this year?
Most growth? That's a good question. You know, I think when you go back and you look at the season that we had, and you're trying to pinpoint areas of where you had success, you know, it was written throughout the year, the depth of our team and everybody contributing. You know, at the start of the year, we were trying to figure out where goals were going to come from, and you know, we were wondering if that was going to be a problem, and it didn't seem to be a problem for us. Our power play was better. I think there were lots of different areas where we had growth and we grew as a team. Whether it was through our structure at the beginning of the year, we were sloppy in areas. We used practice and repetition to get better there. It's tough to pinpoint one thing because I think, as a whole, the game of hockey moves so fast, and you're dealing with a lot of issues, whether systematic play or individuals in their growth. And I think we had growth in a lot of areas to help us have success.
You obviously knew his name as an assistant coach and head coach in the NHL. When you arrived in Columbus and took this job, had you ever met Todd? Did you know anything about him personally or his coaching style?
Well, I tried to make some phone calls, obviously, before I arrived here, and when I was getting hired, to find out from my network that what kind of coach Todd was. Ray Shiro was working in Pittsburgh at the time, who had worked with Todd before, spoke very highly of him. I had met him briefly in Helsinki. He doesn't remember, but they had a NHL season opener, Minnesota against Carolina that year, in our building where I worked in Helsinki. So I met Todd briefly there.
Was there a defining moment early on, maybe the end of the 2013 season, where you said this guy can coach, this guy's part of the group here? We need him here. I mean, I know you gave him an extension last year, so you liked what he did, but when did he sort of become your guy, your coach here?
Well, I approach the job that I'm doing the way I evaluate players every day. I try to evaluate the coaches and the jobs they do just by interacting with them every day, and often we start our day by having a coffee in the morning and talking about the game the night before or the practices and what's going on with the lineup and who's playing well and who's not. We do that after games. We do that after practices. So, right from the start when I came here, I've tried to do that with Todd, and I've tried to do that with the rest of the coaching staff, with the trainers, with the medical staff, just by trying to interact with them every day and talk to them and find out what they're doing and what their habits are and what kind of people they are. So it's been going on for a long time, and I don't view any of the players or coaches as my coaches or my players. They're the valuable members of the Blue Jackets, and Todd's done a great job. We had a great finish to the season last year where we fell short, and then this year, despite the little bit of a slow start, we were able to make the playoffs and give Pittsburgh Penguins a good run for their money and force them to 6 games. We've been saying that we obviously want to get more, but that's a good step into the right direction. And as he had mentioned and you guys had said, we have a young team, and I think that Todd, who knows these young players really well, and the coaching staff that we have in place, they're the right people to grow with our young group and get them to the next level.
This is for both of you, I guess, kind of building off your comments, Jarmo. Todd, your job is to coach, and Jarmo, your job is to build the team and evaluate players. But will there be more now that you're here for, potentially up to 3 years? If the whole thing runs out, will you become more involved in that long-term process of maybe, evaluating players and looking at, what's going on in Springfield and that type of thing, or are you going to leave that strictly to Jarmo and his guys?
Jarmo was and John, JD have been very good when they first got here to include us as coaches and the staff in long-term decisions. It wasn't, I don't think they approached the day as, well, they only got 1 year, so we can't talk the future with these guys. And again, they made us feel like we were part of it, and we were part of it. They included us. And I think the only way that you're going to have success is there has to be a good line of communication. From Jarmo's side, the management side, down to the coaching side, and eventually the communication from the coaches to the players or management to the players. You have to have that communication. If it's just one area working on their own, if I'm just coaching and we aren't doing anything else, if they're just managing and doing nothing else, I think in today's game it's tough to have success. And credit to Yarmo and to John, because, again, they made us feel, and again, he was a new guy coming in, and I knew that we were getting evaluated. You knew it. But they made you feel like you were part of it. Like you weren't just here, like it's a short term, 1 year. They were talking about the next year. They were talking about the summer, what has to happen. They're talking about training camp the next year. So they made you feel like you were part of it.
Carl, can you talk about that from your perspective, just including the coaches in that?
Well, I think that it's the one thing that I've done from the beginning is that I always felt that being on the scouting side and when I was running the amateur scouting and being director of player personnel with Ottawa, I felt that the scouts and coaches talk different language. You talk about the potential and of the players and the upside and all that, and coaches want to see it now. And I've changed our reporting system a little bit so that we're trying to speak the same language, so that the scouts understand the now and the coaches understand the tomorrow and the future and the potential and the different areas that the coaches evaluate rather than just the areas that the scouts evaluate. So that's been a goal of mine, where we kind of integrate those two areas better together. Coach's job is to win hockey games, and especially when you're in the NHL, when you're in the best league in the world, your job is to win hockey games. But to win hockey games, we got to get better as a group, obviously, and to get better as a group, we got to get better as individuals. So there's a lot of different levels to to how to win hockey games today, because you can't, if you just think of today, it's not in the 82-game season even and moving into one season to another, it's not going to work. So that's why we try to include the coaches in those decisions. But I'm also a firm believer that coaches can be part of the decisions that they haven't scouted for. Like, let's say that we're talking about a trade and you don't know the player except for when they played against us or saw some tape. You're not going to get included in the decision. It's just the way it is. You're not, unless you want to go and see him on the play 10 games live and then watch another 10 games on the tape like we do. And but as far as the decisions what we have on our team, there's nobody that knows our guys and what they do every day as well as the coaches, because they're in the locker room. They live with them every day. They see what they do. We try to do that too. We try to go and put the finger on the pulse of the team every day. That's getting to know the guys as well as the coaches. But we watch from up above, and it's a different angle. It's a different angle that's a lot of times needed too. But the coaches are the ones that really know the players and what they do every day. So that's why I think that the decisions that we make with our team moving forward into the future, we have to include the coaches in those decisions, and possibly on some other ones too, because Richie's worked with the different organizations, knows some players from those teams, so there can be a lot of situations where he can be involved in the trade decisions as well.
Todd, with this vote of confidence from the organization, the obvious goal is the Stanley Cup. But are there other goals you're setting for yourself, for the team? You've talked about getting faster, but are there now other things you're looking to accomplish, short and long term?
Be a better team. I think, the foundation and what we wanted to establish as a group and how we play the game, consistency, play hard, work ethic. I think those things are in place. We can still do it better. We can still play the game harder. We need to do that. But I don't have any personal goals. I have not. For me, it's always about the team, and it's always about winning the Stanley Cup. And then there's other responsibilities that go with the job that I firmly believe in, and which is outside of hockey. I think as a coach and as our players who represent this organization, we have other responsibilities to the community. And I think our players and our organization have done a great job getting out in the community, and we got great support this year, from our fans. And I think some of that is through the hockey, but I think some of it is the extra work and the time that we all put in this community.
Jarmo, just building off what you were talking about earlier, that you want the Blue Jackets' vision to incorporate both the organization's present and future. How essential is it then that the organization's immediate coaching future is settled, and that you know his philosophy, what kind of players he works well with, how much ahead of the curve does that put you, knowing that that's settled?
I think it's a situation that you always want with your team, is that you know that you have the right coach in place, that you have a long-term relationship established with that coach. I think it's a situation everybody's looking for. You know, when you go and trying to build a team, your selection of head coach or hiring the head coach is going to be first on your order of priorities for sure if you start from scratch. So I think we're fortunate right now that we're in that situation, that we have a coach that we think is the best for our team in place and under a long-term contract.
You guys each paint the scene. I think it was the day after the season where you told the coaches that you want them here long-term. Did you just walk into the coach's office and shut the door behind you and say this, or how did it come down?
Basically, yeah. It was just sort of a vote of confidence, saying that, hey, you guys done a good job, and we're going to try to do the right thing and get everybody extended. And obviously, it's always a negotiation, and you got to get through the right steps to get his signature on the contract. But we were able to accomplish that, and so. Yeah, that's basically how it happened. I individually talked to every coach and told them that they've done a good job. We appreciate it, and we'd like to try to get them under a long-term contract.